All right, thanks, guys. We are finally back in action here on Brock Page Productions. Had a great weekend. Nice little 3-day emceeing event. Got to spend some great time with my good friend Shorty Rossi, who I don't know if you guys know who he is. He has a show on Animal Planet called Pit Boss. So he is the Pit Boss, good friend of mine, Shorty Rossi. Had a great event with him. Also spent some good time with Rocky Patel, who's a celebrity attorney, also makes incredible cigars. So if you ever see those guys out in public doing events and you ask them who Brock is, guarantee you they will know exactly who I am. Great friends of mine, and it was great to spend the last 3 days with those guys doing an incredible event as I got a chance to do some live emceeing, and I've been doing that type of stuff for the last 7 years. So really cool. One of my favorite things to do is MC events live. But anyway, we got to get back into our stuff now. It's time to get focused and get back into it. So let's go ahead and start in the NBA. As you can see, our Brock Page production t-shirts came in. Got ourselves a little prototype here. Let me know what you think, guys. If you think it's cool, if it's a nice design, if you're interested, we'll get some more printed out. We'll start selling these things and get it going. But here's our first prototype right there. Brock Page Productions right on the t-shirt. If you guys are interested, I will find a way to get these in your hands and try to negotiate the lowest prices possible so I can get them in your hands for dirt cheap. All right, let's go ahead and hop into some NBA, and we're going to begin with Toronto taking on the Sixers. 3:30 Eastern tip-off in Philadelphia. The Sixers open the betting as the 1.5 point favorite, total at 215. And since those markets opened this one up, we're actually seeing pretty good action on Philadelphia, up to -2. We're seeing movement downward on the total, down to 214.5. So once again, Philadelphia open 1.5 up to -2. Total open 215 down to 214.5. 55% of the consensus is leaning toward Philadelphia. 56% of the consensus is leaning toward the over. Right now, Toronto's plus $1.10 on the money line. Now, Pascal Siakam is doubtful for this afternoon's action if you're a Toronto fan. So keep that in mind if you're capping this game. Now, I do want to take just a quick timeout and give a shout out to some guys that have been sticking with me while I was on hiatus for the last couple of days. I've been sending a few messages out on YouTube, and these guys have been very responsive, very understanding. So I got to give a shout out to my man Proline Master, Jerome Jerry Watkins, SMC Justin, Heath Samari Roll, Milwaukee Mike Jones, Worthy OM 311, Jimmy Johnson, Straight to the Point, Andrew Gonzalez, Jerry We the Best, Matt May, and last but certainly not least, my good friend Hector, also known as iRec. So big shout out to you guys. Thanks for sticking with me. And I know for a fact that you are watching me right now. So let's go ahead and try to get this paper and secure the bag. All right. So once again, Philadelphia -2, total 214.5. Toronto is 18th in offensive rebounding. They also, they lost their last 2 straight. They're down 2-1 in this series. Toronto's failed to cover in 4 out of their last 8. They're also covering just 45% of their games on the road. One more thing to add about Toronto, they've covered just, 13 out of 32 games taking on teams over 550. Now on the other side, Philadelphia is 7-2 straight up in their last 9. They're also 6-1 against the spread in their last 7. The Sixers rank 4th in scoring, 2nd in offensive rebounding. They're also 2nd in home defensive rebounding. Now total-wise, Toronto is 71% to the over at the current posted total. I'm going to lean Philadelphia -2 and the over 214.5 in that matchup there. All right, next game, real quick. Just going to take a quick timeout and remind you to check me out at patreon.com/Brock Page. That is my current website. We're doing very well in our daily picks in several different categories. And one of the things to note is that even though there are times where I can't broadcast live here on YouTube, Patreon doesn't shut down. That content continues to move forward. We do not shut it down on Patreon. So if you want to stay connected with me, Patreon.com/BrockPage is the best way to do it. There's plenty of free content there. We also have different memberships that begin at $1.99 per month. A link for that website is in the description section below. We're going to hop back into some more lines and personal leans. All starts Eastern Standard Time. And on deck, we've got Denver taking on Portland. That's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Rip City. Now, Portland opened the betting as the 4.5-point favorite, total at 212. And we're seeing all kinds of movement in this one. Actually, a 1.5-point fade of Portland on the spread. We also saw movement downward on the total, down to 210.5. So once again, Portland opened 4.5, down to -3. Total open 212, down to 210.5. 51% are leaning Portland, 60% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Nuggets are plus 130 on the money line. Now, if you like Denver in this matchup here, they've dropped 3 out of their last 5. They're also just 2-3 against the spread in those 5 games. Denver right now is down 2-1 in this series. They rank 20th in road scoring, 21st in road field goal percentage. They're also 24th from the stripe when traveling. And one more thing to add about Denver, really struggling away from home. They're covering just 42% of their games when traveling as well. Now, Portland on the other side, 8-2 in their last 10. They've also won their last 10 home games straight up. 10-0 straight up in their last 10 at home. Portland's also 27-18 against the spread on their home court. 34-22 ATS when laying the points, and they're covering 64% of their games at the current number. Now, total-wise, Portland's 4-2 to the over in their last 6, 6-1 to the over in their last 7, taking on Denver if you're into historical trends. Meanwhile, Denver 6-3 to the over in their last 9. Give me Portland -3 and the over 210.5 in that matchup there. All right, let's go ahead and slide into some NHL action. We're going to start off with one game and one game only. We have the St. Louis Blues taking on the Dallas Stars. 3 o'clock Eastern puck drop in Dallas. The Stars open the betting as the $1.30 favorite. Total at 5 flat. And since those markets opened this one up, pretty good two-way action on the total. Not a whole lot of movement there. But we did see a 10-cent fade of Dallas down to -120. So once again, Dallas opened $1.30 down to 120. Totals at 5. 60% of the consensus is leaning toward Dallas. 70% shaded toward the over. Right now, St. Louis is plus 105 on the money line. Dallas plus 220, laying the goal and a half. We have Jordan Binnington for the Blues, Ben Bishop for the Stars. Dallas is up 3-2 in this series. They're also 7-3 in their last 10, taking on St. Louis if you're into historical trends. The Stars are also 6-2 straight up in their last 8 playoff games. They rank first in home goals allowed at just 2.2 per contest. You just can't score against these guys. Now, Dallas is 5-2 straight up in their last 7 at home, and they are winning 61% of their games when looks like when Bishop makes the start. I actually had Binnington written down there. But yeah, Dallas, very good when Bishop makes the start. Now, St. Louis on the other side, they've won just 33% of their games taking on Dallas this season. They've also won just 11 out of 26, taking on teams between 450 and 550. That's a win percentage. And offensively, well, they're scoring just 2.7 goals per contest on average when traveling. And when it comes to the scoring, the total stayed under in just 1 out of this series' 5 games. So with all that in mind, I'm going to lean Dallas -120 and the over. 5 goals in that game there. All right, next and final slate. It is going to be in Major League Baseball. We're going to start off with the Rays taking on the Orioles. 1:05 Eastern first pitch. No line on that game, no pick. Next game I have for you, it is going to be the Royals taking on the Tigers. 1:10 Eastern first pitch in Detroit. Detroit's -120, totals 8.5. 63% of the consensus is leaning toward the Tigers. 64% shaded toward the over. Right now, Kansas City's +105 on the money line. Detroit +160 on the run line. We have Keller for